Right, here we go. So what I'm going to do is I am going to do another episode of the Astrakhan's Feather. But first of all, remember the other day when I was talking about these old actors, old male actors, right? So we're talking Liam Neeson and we're talking Russell Crowe. Well, Michael Keaton, you can add him to the list. What are we talking about? What am I talking about? I'm talking about blokes losing their cognitive functions, right? So Liam Neeson, he was getting something like Alzheimer's. He was forgetting his phone number, for example, right? Mind you, I've done that a few times as well, because you never phone yourself, do you? Anyway, that's another issue. And Russell Crowe. Russell had a major operation on his head to try and restore his mental abilities, and then he could remember what happened in a case many years ago, right? And it's a pattern. It's a genre in itself now. Michael Keaton, he's 73, right? And he's in a film called, what's it called now? See, I'm doing it now. I'm losing my mind. I wrote it down before. It is called Knox Goes Away. Get it? Because he's got dementia, right? And he's a hitman. He's a hitman with dementia. How weird is this that they keep doing this? Maybe it's just like a way of explaining how these male actors are still acting, you know, when they're in their 70s and really should be retiring. And let's be honest, they'd have enough money to be able to do it. Anyway, there you go. It's interesting, right? Somebody's going to pick it up sooner or later and say, oh, yes, I invented that genre. I brought it to the public attention. Well, listen, it was me who brought it to your attention. Anyway, there we go. Astrakhan's Feather. So what's happened? Well, we know there's been a car accident and Ray Lucas has died, and Ray's a bit of a dodgy bloke in the locality. And in the locality, it's the sort of thing I tell journalists, don't use words like locality, right? You don't use words like that. You don't use words like commenced. The band didn't commence playing. They began to play. Or the band played, right? Anyway, I won't go on about it because nobody listens. Anyway, so what we're doing now is Karen Allen's been down there in the ditch with Sergeant Mullins. Not in that sense. They were both in there together. Well, they were just in the ditch investigating, right? Anyway, what we're going to do now is go back to Christ. Remember, he's not at work. That's why Karen Allen from the UK is standing in for him. Anyway, Christ has taken his kids to school. And this school is based on the one where my kids went, you know, and where I live, of course. Okay, so here we go. This is episode 9. Christ parked on the grass verge. Cuban cigar crisis, love between the sheets, bellowing. If he sat for a minute or two, the Eagles were up next. You could crank the sound system and make the Tesla's roof flex. It was like the band was in the back seat. I had a car like that. I had a car. I'm going to digress. I hope you like me doing that. You probably don't, because it ruins the flow of the book, doesn't it? I had a Volkswagen Golf convertible at one stage when I was a motoring journalist. Bought it myself, and it was white. So often people used to shout out, "You fucking puffer," as I drove by. But there you go. It was a lovely car. Love that car. The Golf GTI was a brilliant car. And you know the gear stick, it was a manual, of course. It was in the UK. Most cars were manual back then. And the gear stick, on the top of the gear stick, it was like a golf ball, right? Get it? Golf. Whoever would have thought the Germans would have had such a sense of humour? Anyway, I got a sound system fitted because I was also editor at the time of Car Hi-Fi magazine. This was back in the days when you bought a new car and it didn't have a hi-fi system, right? A sound system to you youngsters. It didn't have it. Hi-fi means high fidelity. And so you had to get one. Anyway, what I did was I blagged a free one on the basis that I would write about it. So this company designed it and fitted it in, right? It was a bespoke system. It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. At work, they used to call me Blagger Bosworth for a while, amongst other names, because I could blag anything, right? I did. I went to Norway once with a girlfriend in a Mazda. Well, we didn't drive in the Mazda. We went on a boat, obviously, but we took the Mazda. Wrote about the Mazda. Wrote about the ocean liner company and the trip across, and wrote about the wood cabin we stayed in. Trip was totally free, right? Anyway, there's no such thing as a free lunch as we know. But it was totally free. It was brilliant. Ah, those were the days. Anyway, there's Christ. He's at the school. He's playing music. He looks in the mirror, smiles at Tudor, who rolls his 7-year-old eyes. Dad, you're going to have to keep the noise down. My friends come to this school too, you know. They do, said Sachs, wide-eyed, clutching a dark green school bag bigger than he was. That's true. I have seen them here every day, he said. The school was in the middle of nowhere. Single story, it sat low on one side of a gently sloping valley, windows looking out over a broad river, silver today in the sunlight. Across the water, a saltbush and scrub plain stretched to the mountains. In winter, snow tipped their peaks, but today the summer heat hummed. Evaporating oil from millions of eucalypt trees made the shimmering air blue. That is why it's called the Blue Mountains. That's not in the book. That's why it's called the Blue Mountains. When you look at it in the summer, there's a haze over it, and the black mountains look blue, and it is the oil from the eucalypt trees heating up. Anyway, it's air blue. How the kids get any work done, well, that's beyond me. All that to look at every day. Jenny had laughed. I want my kids to go there. Christ lowered his forehead, tapped it gently on the steering wheel. The boys stared at him. Before the bell went, Tudor and Sachs, like Christ, to sit on the dark green wooden benches down the side of the shade-covered assembly area. In summer, it could be cool there for a while. Christ looked at the school's flag snapping on the gleaming white pole, lanyard clanking in the stiff breeze. Even in his wisp of a see-through purple and blue Paul Ropp with the runic seashell buttons, Christ had to sit still to stop melting. He breathed calm and slow. When it was time for the pupils to line up, Mrs. Gecko in the office played music over a tinny sound system. This morning it was Boomtown Rats, I Don't Like Mondays. If you don't know the song, get it up, listen to it. It's basically about a kid who goes to school and massacres everybody. But this is what used to happen. She used to play this music every morning. Geez, man, next I'll be playing Lily Allen's Fuck You Very Much, drawled Jerome out the side of his mouth as he eased down next to Christ. Right, Jerome exists. He's a friend of mine, right? Everything in there is pretty much true. Anyway, Jerome, he wears a wife beater, white wife beater. Right, the wife beater is like, it's like a vest, right? And in this part of, because I was going to say Sydney, it's kind of out of Sydney, you know. In this part of the Hawkesbury and this part of the Sydney, that's what they're known as, right? Blokes who wear them, it's known as a wife beater. You can probably guess why. It's a, what's the word? It's a cliche, you know. It's a cliche. That's the word. I was never really good at French. Anyway, Jerome wears a white wife beater, arms heavily muscled, daughter Emmy bouncing onto his knee, the one with shrapnel still in it. He bounced for a second or two until the pain bit, then let her down, slapped her on the backside. You go, girl. Learn stuff. I'm not going to do the accent anymore. He's from Alabama, right? He's got a strong American accent. She looked back at her father, pirouetted, coquettish. Oh, damn, that's the look. I'm sorry. I'm doing it again. Oh, damn, that's the look her mother gave me, one that got me in trouble in the first place. Christ laughed. Jerome held out his hand. My Amy, she's in the same grade as your Tudor. He said it, Tudor. Actually, I didn't, did I? Jerome shook Christ's hand. Name's Jerome, originally from Alabama, US of A, as you may well have ascertained. Hey, you a single dad? Christ looked across the playground at Sachs and Tudor playing chase with their friends. He took a deep breath and turned back to Jerome. No, he said, I've got a wife, Jenny. Jerome squinted. Should get yourself over for a beer some day soon, he said. Kids can play, we got a pool. Christ nodded and said, without much enthusiasm, sounds good. Assembly took a few minutes, a couple of messages about choir practice, a lecture about running on the concrete. Then the kids started to file past to their classes. Tudor held the hand of a blonde girl and was chattering away. Sachs was trying to kung fu fight with a friend until his teacher wagged her finger. At the gate, Jerome jerked his chin and said, I'm parked this way. He handed Christ an empty Park Crush Lucky Strike packet. Wrote my number on there. He said, give me a call. The pack crackled as Christ pocketed it and started to walk to his car. Hey there. Her eyes were orchid blue and the long platinum brown blonde hair flowed softly in the warm breeze as she suddenly walked in step beside Christ. She smelt of early morning dew. Probably Chanel, thought Christ. He gave her a smile. Jenny would say the woman's breasts were out the door and they sure looked eager to bounce free of the poppy red silk blouse. My son's in Saxon's class, she breathed. Well, thought Christ, this is turning into a right meet the parents' day. Marie, she said. Ah, said Christ. I know you are, she said. They walked silently for a while, dry grass whispering against their feet. I've had a hard life. Christ looked sideways at her, the glossy manicure, tight-fitting designer clothes, not a whisper of hair astray. I'm separated from my husband, she said. Her shoulder brushed his as she ducked under a low tree branch. Oh, yes, he was cheating on me, as many women as he could. Ah, it nearly killed me. I see. He'd come home and tell me all about it, the positions, everything. Whew, said Christ. Sometimes it was whew, she said. Well, thing is, he seems to be moving back in. Christ nodded. He knew how that could happen. Well, when I threw him out, I thought I'll redecorate. I'll have the house how I like it. I've got a new pool put in. By then they'd walked to her car, a Mercedes. The colour was molten silver. I got this, she said, tapping the metal. It sounded expensive. Well, good for you, said Christ. Thing is, she ran a sharp, gleaming fingernail along the door before squeezing the handle. I found I needed someone to change light bulbs, put a new deck in, mow the lawn, all that. Sounds like you needed an odd job, man, said Christ. She looked at him with her orchid eyes and smiled gently. I'll bet you can mow a verge. Christ laughed out loud. I'm no good with my hands. The woman sighed. Not like my ex, then. Not by the sounds of it, said Christ. She looked up the road where a mirage shimmered above the soft, hot tarmac. Thing is, no woman can resist him. He simply oozes charisma. I'm going to stop there because I'd actually forgotten that I'd put this in. But this is true. This is what happened to me one day. When I was walking back to the car, she comes up, she starts talking to me like this. I've never met her in my life before. How weird is that? It's not the weirdest thing in this book, but it's true, right? An image, she said, he simply oozes charisma. That's the ex-husband, right? An image hit Christ like a head-jerking blast of cheap aftershave. Dodgy, solid-looking bloke in an open-necked Hawaiian shirt, a winking diamond ear stud and a small silver crucifix, warm, glittering in a chest hair the colour of brushed steel, head of hair lion's mane luxurious, sweat back and grey but with streaks of silver glinting in the sun, arm out the window where the gold Rolex flared in the light, almost as bright as his smile as a sports car's engine blatted scorched air through gold-tipped exhaust. He used a monogrammed hanky to constantly mop a brow oozing charisma. I'm telling you, it's exactly true, right? And this character I'm just describing, this is Miles Blanchett, who's a real estate agent. I made the name up, obviously. But anyway, there you go. I think we'll leave it there now because we switch gears a bit afterwards. Anyway, there you go. So if you're looking to watch any films where blokes are losing their minds, got a bit of dementia, you've got Knox Goes Away. He's going away literally in his mind. You've got Absolution, which I have to say it like that, with, what's his name, Liam Neeson. See, I'm doing it now myself. I'll be in a film soon. And also Russell Crowe in Sleeping Dogs. Brilliant films, right? Well, I don't know about the Keaton one. I haven't watched it. I might watch that tonight. And talking of films, I watched Fall Guy last night with Ryan Reynolds in it. Is it Ryan Reynolds? No, it's not. It's the other bloke in it. Emily Blunt. She's in it. She's wonderful. I really like her. I really do. Anyway, there you go. She's not likely to be going, oh, yeah, Tony Bosworth, I know him. Anyway, it's all right, but she's good. Anyway, there we go. Look, I'm off, and we'll get another episode on tomorrow for sure. Talk to you later. Take care.